Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about a chapter of class 9 I.S.C. that is pollination and fertilization. Before starting this chapter, we should go for the introduction of these two basic words, what is pollination and what is fertilization. Pollination is something, the process of transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma, maybe in the same flower or different, and fertilization meaning fusion of male and female gametes, which we will discuss later on. Let's move to the next topic. What is pollination? When we talk about pollination, it's the basic process which is given here in the definition. That process of transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of a flower is called as what? Pollination. So in pollination there are two types depending upon the diagram. You can see over here the diagram is given. Two different twigs are given. In one twig, you can see the transfer of pollen grain is taking place within the same flower. This one I am talking about. This is autogamy. So here transfer of pollen grain is taking place from anther of one flower to the stigma of the same flower of the same plant. Then it is called as autogamy, which is a kind of self-pollination. But if transfer of pollen grain is taking place from one flower to another flower of the same plant, then it is called as gytonogamy, which is again a type of self-pollination, but morphologically you can see it's looking like cross-pollination, but genetically it is self-pollination because both the flowers are belonging to the same plant. Then another diagram is there where you can see the transfer of pollen grain is taking place between the two different flowers of the two different plants. Then it is called as cross-pollination or xenogamy. So depending upon the condition, we can classify pollination into two, where first is self-pollination and second is called as cross-pollination. So this is the example of self-pollination and this one is the example of cross-pollination. In self-pollination, we have two types. First is called as autogamy and second is called as gytonogamy. Even in autogamy, you will find one condition where pollination takes place in the bud condition, when this bud is never opening, but even though pollination has taken place, how is it possible? Because the stigma is present in this situation and this stamen is present or lying in such a way so that anthers are releasing pollen grain on stigma itself. So this is called as gytonogamy, which is taking place in the closed plant. Now suppose if pollination takes place in the same plant, we don't need any kind of agent for pollination. But if you can see in the cross pollination, you want some agent or agencies for the pollination, which is called as agent of pollination, like wind could be there, water could be there, insect could be there. But first we have to focus on the self-pollination. So in self-pollination, what is the benefit and what is the loss? In I.S.C., usually 2-mark question is coming that what are the advantages and disadvantages of self and cross-pollination. So kinds of pollination already I have discussed. Now here in this line you can see that for the cross-pollination they need certain agents like bees and butterflies for the pollination, that we will discuss later on. Focus on the self-pollination. So self-pollination types and definitions are given. I have discussed about the cleistogamy. Now when does self-pollination occur? It was a detailed topic earlier which is removed now. But you should know that what are the conditions. The two major conditions I'll be discussing with you, that when self-pollination occur. First is called as bisexuality. That means the flower should be bisexual. Means anther and stigma should be present in the same flower or in the same plant for the self-pollination. Same flower, suppose mustard is there, self-pollination and autogamy occurs. And if you are talking about the two different types of flower in the same plant, like staminate and pistillate, male and female flowers are present in the same plant, like in case of cucurbita or pumpkin, you can see where unisexual flowers are there, but these flowers are present on the same plant, that is called as monoecious condition. You must have heard about this word in the lower classes. So this is, even if unisexual flowers are there, but they are present in the same plant, so self-pollination is possible. Second term is called as homogamy, which means the stigma and the anther must mature at the same time. This is one of the most important term which is called as homogamy. It is called as homogamy. Although term will not be asked from you, but you should know what does it mean. So transfer of pollen grain in the same flower, maybe bisexual or unisexual of the same plant. And second is what? The maturity time should be same. These are the two major conditions for self-pollination. Now we are moving to the next topic, that why self-pollination should be there or should not be there. So two conditions you will find. When we talk about advantages, so it's quite common. If self-pollination is taking place naturally, it will be causing a kind of overcrowding, but it is sure that pollination will be there because no agent is required. So first point, in one word, even if you can write in one word, you will get full marks over here, that this is a sure process. 100% result you will get in case of self pollination because the flower is bisexual. So this is the sure process of pollination. Second, you cannot do any changes over there because it is preserving the parental character. So take it in a positive way here, that parental characters are preserved. That means whatever are the properties of the parent will be directly transferred to the next generation. Third, because agents are not required for transfer of pollen grains, so no wastage of pollen grains are there. Immediately the pollen grain, even if 2 or 3 pollen grains are reaching on the stigma and compatible, these pollen grains are compatible to the stigma, there will be fertilization. Then these flowers do not need any extra, you can say, color and fragrance for attracting insects, so they need not to be large and showy. Then we are having 10th thing I have discussed, nectar is not needed. But in exam if they are asking, I will suggest you to go for first 3 points because these two are the minor points. So two major points you have to go for getting good marks and sure marks in the exam. Although this self-pollination is good, but if self-pollination takes place for the longer duration, it causes a problem that will be reducing the quality of the offsprings in next generation. So you may get the poor quality of seed in the upcoming generations. So it's better to avoid self-pollination. So when we do horticulture techniques and hybridization technique we are using there, we are focusing on the cross-pollination to get the desired variety. So as I told, disadvantages will be asked for the 2 marks. So here you have to go that what exactly happens when self-pollination takes place for longer duration of time. So here you can see it will be leading to the weakening of the variety. Weakening of the variety means if continuously self-pollination takes place, it may lead to the problem of reducing the quality, and if quality is reduced it will be of no economic value. So this particular problem is there, weakening of the variety because of the self-pollination. Second, this weaker or defective character of the variety cannot be eliminated. What does it mean? Like we know some of the homozygous recessive traits are there, or you can say in the case of heterozygous condition where one dominant trait is there, one recessive trait is hidden over there, you cannot remove them in the self-pollination. But in cross-pollination, it can be easily removed. So this weaker or defective character is always hidden here and will be passing from one generation to next. We cannot eliminate it. But if you are doing cross-pollination, chances are there that you will get homozygous recessive condition and you will remove that particular character. These genetics word I am using, which will be clear to you by next class, that is class 10. It does not yield to the new variety. That's quite obvious. If parental characters, we are not doing hybridization over here, there is no chance of getting the new variety. So these are some of the disadvantages of self-pollination which we have discussed here. So three major advantages are what? That it is 100% sure, there is no wastage of pollen grains for pollination, and third, parental characters can be preserved. And if we are talking about disadvantages of self pollination, it will be, it causes continuously weakening of the variety, new variety cannot be created or developed, and weaker character cannot be eliminated. So mostly two of the points are asked in the exams, three I have discussed with you. Next, we are moving with cross pollination. So, definition is one of the thing which you have to prepare nicely. That the process of transfer of, this is the definition. Transfer of pollen grains from the anther of flower of one plant to the stigma of the flower of another plant of the same species is very important, because if it is of different species, pollination will not occur. Now, what are the advantages of cross pollination? You can see the drawbacks are there in the self pollination, that becomes advantages of cross pollination. So first one, you can see the offsprings are healthier because a new variety could be developed. Second, the seed produced are abundant and viable because new combinations are there. It will help them in the survival in terms of evolution. So that will be more viable. And the best point is the new varieties can be created. This we have to prepare. Okay. So advantages of cross pollination, like, or you can say weaker character can be eliminated. As I told, the disadvantages of self pollination becomes the advantages of cross pollination. Now disadvantage is what? Disadvantage is, like, when we talk about cross pollination, this cross pollination is needing some of the agents for pollination, and these agents could be air, water, or insects. And until this air, water, and insects are reaching to the particular site of pollination, like anther, from anther the pollen grains are transferred from anther to stigma, they need the agent. Until these agents are reaching over there, pollination is not possible. So they need certain agents, and it is not sure, not always sure, because they have to wait for the agent for pollination. Second, during this transfer, most of the pollen grains could be wastage, can be dropped here and there where pollination is not possible until it is reaching to the compatible species of the plant. Third is, it is uneconomical. Why uneconomical? Because for this flower have to be ready, it should have nectar, it should have bright color, and if flowers are of a smaller size, they should be in the bunch or group to attract insects for the pollination. So these are the three of the disadvantages of cross pollination. So in exam, as I told you, there will be asked the advantages and disadvantages. They may ask you the definitions, and they may ask the reasoning question on the guide. So that's all for today. Agents of pollination and cross pollination we will discuss